All three were accepted at Stellenbosch University. Jess was seen as the smart one of the family. Despite her shy nature, she was hell-bent on proving herself, so she decided to study B Accounting LLB. David always needed people around him. His parents expected him to attend university. He was only interested in science and chose to study BSc. Yet he decided studying shouldn't exclude entertainment. Boarding school in the city broadened Sam's cultural horizons. Books and music took up most of his time. Coming from a traditional background, he was above all respectful. When his father decided chemical engineering would suit him best, he simply complied. They arrived ready for their new lives as Marty students, but not without some adjustments. Jess and Sam struggled to fit in at Res. Jess was often seen with her nose in a book, and it quickly earned her the nickname Owl. Although Sam struggled to understand the Res's culture and traditions, he was keen to fit in. Whereas David had to adjust living with an engineering student who was obsessed with routine and gaming. Studies were also not what they imagined. Jess could be seen less and less. David's nightly escapades took its toll, and Sam just couldn't get excited about engineering. Jess started to feel frigid and alone. After an inspiring performance by the university choir, she sought comfort in her passion for singing. While Sam kept David in the loop of academic matters, he also rambled about his literary interests. Listening to Sam made David remember why he chose to study science in the first place. Singing brought back some life into Jess. Her habit of humming drew the attention of a young musician who invited her to audition for his band, Lumen and Fib. 3 weeks later, she got on stage for the first time. David heard about the band's first gig and asked Sam to join him. The opening poetry reading sparked Sam's literary aspirations more than ever. This revitalized him quite a bit. The moment she got on stage, David fell utterly in love with Jess. Jess started loosening up, and her student life took an unexpected turn. She moved out of the shadows, but had the feeling of being spied on. David couldn't find the courage to talk to her and merely watched her from afar, and sometimes not so far. Sam told David that his stalking seemed creepy and offered to write Jess a poem on his behalf. Sam conned his way into one of Jess's law classes. He slipped her the poem and a request for a date. Becoming at ease with the tension, Jess thought, why not? But instead of Sam, she found a nervous yet smooth-looking David waiting for her. No one really knows how it happened, but they started dating soon afterwards. Motivated by the success of his poem, Sam followed his dream of becoming an author and switched to BA. His father expressed his disappointment, but Sam could finally breathe freely.
Oh, fantastic.
David and Jess were in their own bubble. They undoubtedly turned heads, not to mention stomachs. Sam discovered that the social sciences are not the picnic some people make it out to be. For hours he was lost thinking about social, political and ethical issues. He concluded that a different mindset needs a new activity. So he started rowing. He also later claimed that rowing inspired poetic insight. As Jess's course became more demanding, she retracted into solitude again. With Sam gone, David was getting bored with his studies. Yet with Jess's tight schedule, he felt obligated to work hard. So, unfortunately, the romance that bloomed started to fade. Meanwhile, Sam had a little run-in with the law. He broke into the botanical gardens and stole a flower for a date. After this, he had full confidence in campus security's quick response. Jess's academic frustration resulted in absent-mindedness and a short temper. She quit the band after a difference of opinion. David started to exercise, but remained apathetic. During his 12-hour community service, Sam started to disagree with a loudmouth.
That's the reason that you're here.
This in turn inspired him to join the Student Representative Council. Jess dealt with the breakup by burying herself in her work, although her grades didn't reflect the effort. David grew a morning beard and stopped going to class. He reckoned WebCT's class notes would be sufficient.
Bro, you don't look so good.
No, I'm awesome, man.
Sam stepped in. First he thought a razor and a haircut at the Nielsen might do the trick.
Hey, come.
Finally he convinced David to see the campus psychologist.
Sjoe David, ek wonder of dit nie tyd is dat jy iets heeltemal niets moet probeer nie.
Taking her advice literally, David embarked on a 3-month research expedition to Antarctica. Sam was relieved to return to his own work. Since David and his car were now gone, he decided to get his driver's license. After the first lesson, he was glad to get out of the car, but his driving episode inspired him to write a short story for which he received top marks. Because of her zombified appearance, Jess's lecturers were concerned and supported her to get back on track. What followed was an anomaly. Jess was appointed mentor at Res and became a presenter on MFM. She even started writing her own column for the Marty. David's trip to Antarctica was life-altering. He became passionate about conservation, joined Marty community service, and started attending classes. Quite the poster boy, but in an interview with the Marty, he confessed that everything started with a broken heart. Sam matured as a writer. With the help of his lecturers, he entered literary competitions and received critical acclaim. One of Sam's poems was published, and in an interview he revealed his plans to broaden his oeuvre. The evening's performance was a classic movie ending. David and Jess shared a sweet moment. He told her that she looked endearing. Sam met a journalism student who would later publish his first book. All three graduated and saw the world open to them. Sam would have followed his dream to become an author. Jess would have been headhunted by a corporate firm to run their legal department. Or she would have started her own firm that deals with human rights legislation. David would have stayed on at Stellenbosch University doing research on various ecological issues. No, he would have moved to the Kruger National Park leading a campaign against rhino poaching. Sam's first book would have attracted the attention of a world-class agent. It would have been released in 25 countries. Jess might have chosen to render public services at the Stellenbosch University's Legal Aid Clinic, while David travelled the world lecturing about sustainability. Sam's work would have inspired school children and students alike. We can only hope. There is always hope, but hope is not wishing.